What's good, Lakers Nation, and welcome back to another episode of the Lakers Corner, where we talk all things Lakers. As always, I'm your host, John, and this is a real special episode, man. This is a special episode for a couple of reasons. First of all, this is one of the first collabs that we're doing on this channel, but mainly it's a real special collab, man, because we got people, we got somebody that's part of the Lakers Nation, Lakers faithful, man. We got somebody that's part of the Lakers squad, and my guy, Gerald from the Lakers Fast Break Pod. My guy, how you doing?
I'm doing well. I'm just great to be on, and I cannot thank you enough for reaching out to us. We always love connecting in the Lakers community and love talking to people who love the Lakers like we do.
Absolutely, man. We definitely love the Lakers over here at the Lakers Corner, man. So that's what we're going to do in this episode. We're going to get into really all things Lakers. Today is Tuesday, December 5th, before the Suns and Lakers in-season tournament game. I feel like I do want to preface that just in case, something happens and this take gets old. But let's go ahead and get into it, Gerald. Look, we're 21 games into the season. Right now, we're sitting at 12-9. So let me get your early thoughts on this Lakers squad and how this season's been going. Let's start there.
Well, I guess when you compare it to last season, as some of our audience has reminded me, I mean, it could be worse. I guess the best way to say it, we were in the Russell Westbrook era this time last year, which was abysmal. And I know a lot of our fan base was miserable just because of that. And I know we started off 2-10 there, and it just went downhill from there for most of the season until the Lakers made some trades and finally got themselves out of it. This year, this team has been up and down. I know a lot of people had a lot of high hopes on this team coming into the season. Thought the moves in the offseason that they thought would really solidify this team coming off a Western Conference Finals run. So far, I can't say it's all been due to injury. That's just my personal opinion. That's been the case. This team is very uneven, has a lot of flaws, and hopefully the injuries were a big part of that. I'm hoping that that's the case, although I'm not entirely convinced, my friend.
Absolutely, and I love the outlook of saying, like, comparative to last year, this is great. Right now, we're doing
Exactly.
amazing.
Yeah.
So I definitely love that outlook, and I absolutely agree with you. You know that we have yet to see this Lakers squad in its in its fullness. We've yet to see them be able to have all their players out there, especially some of these offseason additions that we got during the offseason. So that's, I think, a perfect way to transition into like one of my first topics that I want to get into with you is let's talk about some of these offseason additions. Like I always say, 21 games into the season, we brought in Cam Reddish. We brought in Gabe Vincent, who he hasn't played because of that knee injury. We brought in Jackson Hayes, brought in Torian Prince, so another great 3-and-D corner shooter, brought in Christian Wood as a backup big. So give me your thoughts on some of these players. Who to you has been maybe your personal favorite, and who to you do you think has made the biggest impact so far?
Of the new people that are on the team, the new guys that are on the team, I'd probably say, because it's just been so inconsistent. That's pretty much the way that this season has gone. Inconsistency. I'd say of the new arrivals, every one of them has had their issues. Gabe Vincent, right off the bat, knee issues, and he's going to be out for a while. People should not be expecting him probably back until early 2024 at the very earliest. I don't think he's coming back at all this month. I think just the thought, I'm hoping I'm wrong when I say that, but yeah, when you talk PRP, you talk some serious knee stuff going on there, which is not too good and not too pleasing for someone that we signed to a 3-year contract. And just 4 games into it, you already got issues with there. Jackson Hayes, he's had some time as far as on the floor. That's promising. But I think when it comes down to it, when the Lakers come back to full health, like they are getting close to right now, he's always seemingly the first one that they push back to the bench. It doesn't seem like they have as much confidence in him. I know he's sometimes a hard fit because he can only do so much on the offensive end, and defensively, because he's still a slight of build individual, he just doesn't bring enough power or force to his game to be a really big defensive stopper as of yet. But he has potential, and I'm really rooting for the kid as well. Christian Wood, I've been watching Christian Wood, because I live here in Vegas, and I've been watching him since he was playing with UNLV, and I followed his career throughout all of his stops. Back when he was a 15th guy, barely making the roster on the Detroit Pistons, and just to see him progress to the point where he became a regular rotation player, and in many ways had a good 17-10 season a couple seasons ago. I really, I was optimistic, but not overly so, because I knew flaws in his game, and the fact is, you have to find him with the right mix of people in order for him to thrive, because he's very slow-footed on the defensive end. I think we've come to see that already. But if you can utilize his skills as a stretch big and also as a rebounder, you with the right mix in there in the starting lineup with him, or in the lineup with him at that time, I think you can still utilize him and find places for him this season and in the playoffs. But it's going to be like bits of Christian Wood. It's not going to be like a consistent dose of Christian Wood that you're going to get. And just the I have to say, it's really hard for me to pick one of the newcomers that has really stood out and been consistent, because they've all had their pluses and minuses going forward. So I'm just hopeful again that they will go ahead and stabilize themselves. Gabe Vincent can come back in the second half of the season and really provide something going forward, because Gabe Vincent, he's not afraid of the spotlight. He's not afraid of being in the playoffs. It's very true that he's a streaky shooter, but if he can get on a hot streak, he can help you win some games as well.
Absolutely, man. And that was perfectly put. For me, as far as like a personal favorite, I probably would be rolling with Cam Reddish. I'm not gonna lie, just because I feel like I mean, we haven't seen much of Gabe Vincent. Like he said, he played in those first 4 games, and he even was struggling to hit a 3 in those first couple of games, and even that's his specialty. I think Taurean Prince has been solid as that corner shooter, but the reason why I've liked Cam Reddish is because like he's been able to fit. You could put him in there. You could put him in there at that 2 or 3, and he could be that defender. But he can also just simply be a catch and shoot player, man. He could just simply be a byproduct of those LeBron James drive to the hoop, and he just simply catches and shoot. So I think he'll be able to play multiple roles on this team. Granted, it's been inconsistent, but I think that out of all these guys, I think Cam will really be able to thrive for the Lakers and have the biggest impact once he's able to consistently put this down.
Well, Taurean Prince is the most hated player in our audience at this point in time. The way Darvin Ham has relied upon him, partly due to injury, but when there has been health, he's still stayed in there. People have called him Darvin Ham's version of Avery Bradley, because Frank Vogel loved Avery Bradley so much and kept him out there regardless of how well or not so well he was doing. Taurean Prince came into the season guaranteeing us 40% from behind the arc, and has not come close to that. And until he gets close to that, I don't think he's going to continue to endear himself to anyone out there, because defensively, even though he gets played because of the defensive issues in the backcourt, he often has to guard some of the best perimeter players that are out there on the team. And we do not look good when he's doing that. He has a high propensity for fouls. And Taurean Prince, I'm really rooting for the guy. I really hope that he does start to prove people wrong, or our audience wrong. So I'm hopeful that he will be able to turn that around. But he's also an individual, once we get back to full health, or at least the guys that are injured, that have coming back from injury, are going to start to be able to play more, which will probably push the time down or push the opportunities down for someone like a Taurean Prince. At least a lot of our audience is hoping for that. And Cam Reddish, up until the time he got injured, was leading the league in steals for the month of November. And, his versatility, as you astutely put it, is his biggest attribute. The 6'8", and I've seen him guard effectively positions 1 through 5. Now, mind you, when his center's posted on him, he can't hold him for too long, but he's not looked so inept that you can't hold him on there for just, a possession or two. But mainly you put him out there against guards because of his quickness, athleticism. His outside shot, remember, this was the guy that at one point in time, up until that shot in Miami, which he missed, was 15% shooting from behind the arc. And as of now, he's still only 31%, but that is a large improvement over what he was doing. So let's hope he can keep on that uphill climb from the outside and become a threat for us, because he's the only one at all as of late. Just now we're starting to hit corner threes because we were the worst corner shooting team in the league. And so finally, it looks like we have someone that may be able to hit some corner threes. It looks horrible the way he's doing. It's like a knuckleball. But you know what? If it goes in, Tyrese Halliburton shooting above 40%, and he's got a knuckleball that he throws up there. So I'm rooting for the kid because the fact is December, January of this year, December of last year, people were talking to me all the time on the show. We need Cam Reddish. They saw the highlights on Twitter, but they were always looking at those highlight dunks in those short amount of minutes he was playing on all those different teams. And I was like, look at the total picture. This kid is not giving it to you. So I was really adamant about him coming on the team. I'm so glad I was proven wrong. He's been a very versatile individual. And like you said, of the newcomers, he's probably played the best. And he's probably the one that has the biggest upside for us going forward.
Absolutely, man. Absolutely. That's perfectly put. And then before we get off the offseason additions, I do want to talk a little bit about, Gabe Vincent. He only played in those first 4 games. Then, like how you said, down with that knee injury, and probably won't see him until like maybe early 2024. But one thing that I mentioned when I'm talking about Gabe Vincent earlier is that he really struggled in those first 4 games. Didn't look the same as he was in Miami. Granted, a whole new team, whole new system. I don't expect him to look the same. He's playing in a different role. But, there are some people out there who are already starting to jump on, the bandwagon of oh, here comes another player that's going to come to the Lakers and disappear. And as Lakers fans, we know there are a lot of players who will be balling out on other teams. The year they come to the Lakers, they'll have a career low year. I don't know what it is. I don't know if it's the pressure. I don't know what it is, but something in LA, the spotlight being too big, they just can't get past it. When Gabe Vincent gets back, do you think are you already buying into that he's going to disappear, or you think he's going to be able to make a comeback and be last year's Gabe Vincent?
Well, he's a streaky shooter, first of all. He's not a great shooter overall. He's only about 34.5%, I think, career-wise, 35. So people should not be expecting anything like that. He bases it in bunches. He gets his threes in bunches. So what we can hope is that when he comes back, as he gets his conditioning back and all that he gets on one of those runs. But if people are asking him to be a consistent 40% point, 3-point shooter, that's not who he is. That's not what he's ever been. He is just someone who goes on runs and is a very streaky shooter. And as a coach, Darvin Ham needs to understand, okay, if he's on a hot streak, I got to play him. I was mad the other day when Christian Wood was on a hot streak from outside on 3 and seeing that the Lakers are one of the worst shooting teams in the league from behind the arc. You don't sit him down, but he hits a couple threes and ultimately he gets sat down just a couple seconds later. And I'm thinking to myself, what's going on? You just got to recognize, if you're the coach, if you have someone that's on a roll like that, like Gabe Vincent can, that, and he plays acceptable enough defense that that it could work out for us. But that's still an issue of need, John, when it comes down to it. Our backcourt defense is at times absolutely abysmal. And we, for all the good that D'Angelo Russell and Austin Reeves can give you playmaking wise, and once their shot starts to come around, as it's starting to come around now, D'Angelo Russell has played well recently as of late, as far as on the offensive end, and actually did well as far as defensively for the first time, I think, seemingly since he became returned as a Laker, with the 5 steals in a previous game. That's the type of defense we need, but we just can't get it often enough from those guys. So we need all the backcourt defense we can get, a perimeter defense we can get. And I know that once the trade season really starts to open up, I think that's an area we need to address the most is some better shooting and that. But you're right. The bright lights come on. We don't know. We've talked about it on the show many times, and it just seems to happen. But maybe playing Rui Hachimura more in the lineup now that he's back, hopefully will alleviate a lot of that, because he is still averaging 42.5% on the season. So far we have seen, as I said in the season, Rui Hachimura, we don't know which one we're going to get because he's been very inconsistent throughout his career. Which Rui are we going to get? Are we going to get the Rui from the playoffs, or are we going to get the Rui from the regular season, or we're going to get somewhere in the middle. So far, we've gotten somewhere delightfully when he's been there in those brief amount of times, somewhere in the middle, and averaging 42.5% could really help this team out as far as getting him some shots and getting him some looks from the outside.
Man, absolutely. And one thing that you mentioned in there is you were talking about, that the trade season and it coming up and just the whole trade market. As we all know, the Lakers is usually always, in the rumors and in the rumor mill of trades going on or whatnot. But one of the biggest questions right now surrounding the Lakers and this season has been like, do you go for that third star? I know you didn't necessarily mention a third star right now. You were talking about just adding more defense and shooting and whatnot. But let me flip the question to you: is like, do you think the Lakers should go for that third star?
That's a question that we've gone back and forth on, because you saw when we tried, you saw what happened when we tried to trade for a third star. We got Russell Westbrook. Whichever third star we're going to get, it's going to have some serious flaws. I know that Zach LaVine is the name of the day right now as far as in the circles for Lakers. We got to get Zach LaVine. Okay, Zach LaVine is a 29-year-old player with iffy knees. $147 million left on his contract. Some athleticism, has been known to play absolutely terrible defense, but can get hot from the outside as far as from three. So you got to take the really good and really bad with him. And I know I've been pointing out a lot of bad on your show so far, but I'm the realistic guy when it comes to Lakers fast break. I have to point out some things because fans get so bought into hype on things, and I got to make sure that I keep it real as possible. Zach LaVine, will he, if he were to give it change to the Lakers or wherever, will he step up his game to be that third star player? You don't know. So do I think that a third star player is better than maybe a package of players like the Lakers got at the trade deadline last season? It all depends on that third player. I mean, it all depends if that third player will step up to be the guy that the Lakers need. And I'm not sure that there's someone out there that the Lakers can trade for without giving up an unprotected first or two, if they're able to, in order to get it. And that's going to be a lot to swallow, because at the end of the decade, we're going to have a pretty bad team if we have no LeBron, no AD, and no draft picks along with it.
Absolutely, man. And I even think to this because I talk about my big brother. He's a big Lakers fan too. So like we always talking Lakers, and he had asked me the other day. It's like, oh, like should we pursue Zach or should we pursue that third star? And it's tough. I feel like you can't give a definitive yes or no answer until you know who that third star is, like how you mentioned. But I guess if I had to give an answer, if they were a gun to my head saying, John, tell me yes or no, I'm gonna go with no. I'm gonna go with let's roll with the squad that we got. And the reason why I am is because I think that if we were to bring in a third star, it would require us to give up way too much. We'd have to give up way too much depth, right? And that's what this team thrives on. Like if you look at us last season when we made that Western Conference Finals run, LeBron was LeBron. He was LeBron. Anthony Davis was Anthony Davis, but the reason why that team was so good is because they were so deep. All of a sudden, Rui would have a 20-point game. All of a sudden, D'Lo would step up, or Austin Reeves would step up. It wouldn't have to always be like how in 2020 it was just strictly LeBron and AD pick and roll. You can't really do anything about it, and that's kind of it. But now, with last year, this team really flexed their depth, and I think that if we were to bring in a third star, we would have to give up way too much of that. And considering the fact that Anthony Davis is glass man Anthony Davis, and considering the fact that LeBron James is 38, about to be 39 here on at the end of December, I think that having depth is very key and very important, because if LeBron misses a week or if AD misses a week, like we can't just we can't have no depth and just have a one-star team out there. So instead, in my opinion, instead of like putting all the chips in one table and going after that third star, I actually think the Lakers should try to go after maybe, like how you said, a package of players, or even like a mid-level big, right? A big that can really back up Anthony Davis, because and I talk about this all the time when I talk to my Lakers fans about it. It's like Christian Wood and Jackson Hayes, like they're backup bigs, but in my opinion, they're not going to be reliable backup bigs in the playoffs. Like they just won't. They're going to get played off the court, and we can't have that. I think to that 2020 team when we had the backup of Dwight and JaVale, I think that was those are two like key backup bigs that you want to have. Like they're not starters, but they can come out there and just bang with other bigs when the time that Anthony Davis isn't there. So Anthony Davis can get that break. So AD can get that much needed rest that we know he needs. So, I know it's kind of long-winded, but I personally wouldn't go with that third star, and I'd rather bring in maybe like a mid-level big or something like that. How do you feel about that?
Well, tell me which mid-level big it is. I mean, Yolas Valanciunas is the only one I could really say that could really do a lot of things for you. Big body, can stretch the floor. He's on the final year of his contract in the teens, so it's something that if you wanted to trade for, I guess Rui Hashimura's name would probably be the most talked about, as far as that's concerned. If you did a package with Levine, you've got to throw in Caruso. If you threw in Caruso and you threw in Vucevic, and you figure out a way to do the numbers on that, that would make it more interesting for me. And I think that would make it more interesting for Lakers fans. But then again, you're probably giving up a whole package of players in return, plus also at least one of those unprotected number one picks as well. So you got to be comfortable in order to do it, in order to go ahead and deal with that. But if you get Caruso in a package, that he takes care of a lot of things as far as perimeter defense, that might be good for you. And, obviously it was one of the biggest mistakes of the career for our beloved GM, Rob Pelinka, to let him go, although he's made quite a few. He's also made some good moves as well. Those trades at the deadline, he should be complimented on. So I'm hoping he'll be able to find something to help this team, because this team in its current configuration, so far from what I've seen, even when we get back to full health, I'm not sure has enough to go all the way this year. I once did coming into the season, but I've seen that we're just not shooting it the way we need to shoot it in order to get that kind of and playing good enough perimeter defense in order to get enough, I think, to where we need to go in this current configuration.
So when you say all the way, you mean like winning the West?
The title, yeah.
Winning
the title, winning the whole thing. I mean, you're going to face a lot of good guards. I mean, you saw how Murray torched us in the finals last year. He's going to be there again. Plus, you've got Booker this year playing at an MVP level as the point guard for the Phoenix Suns. You Bradley Beal, I don't know whether he's going to be in or not. That's regardless. The Bookers, you're going to have to face a lot of really good guards in the playoffs. And Boston, if you meet up against them in the finals, they have a couple good guards that you need to go at. So you need some better perimeter defense. And Cam Reddish has played well, but he also has a history that is not backing him up, that you're going off of what you're seeing now with Cam Reddish instead of what you saw before. There's a reason why he was on 3 other teams before he got to the Lakers. It just seems like all these guys, these rotation guys, they need the perfect place to fit for them before they're able to thrive as a basketball player. And hopefully Cam Reddish is that. But yeah, it's really hard right now to go ahead and say that this team is definitively, when they're all healthy and all said and done, that they're going to be able to be at that level unless we make a trade or two and Rob gets, another good deal lined up once again.
Absolutely. And I mean, so for me, yeah, it is hard to say that they're gonna be able to like win a title or come out the West, just because I don't see anybody right now that's messing with the Nuggets. Like I think it goes Nuggets and then everybody else. I know you mentioned like Devin Booker and the Suns or whatnot. Like this is, I guess, besides the point. We don't necessarily got to dive into that, but I'm not necessarily a big believer of that Suns come playoffs. Like I've come when you have to actually have depth, and you can't just have a top heavy team. Like,
well, that's not necessarily the case, because playoffs, you shrink your rotation.
True, but
your star players play more during the playoffs.
I just fear that it would be, because so when the Suns brought in Bradley, they brought in the idea of having Bradley Beal, Kevin Durant, and Devin Booker. That's a very top heavy team. Now Bradley Beal isn't really playing. Bradley, and once he comes in, you're gonna have to integrate him as the third option. We've never seen Bradley Beal integrated as a third option. By then, you're going to be integrating him mid-season when teams are already rolling. So, like that's my fear with the Suns, and also kind of similar to what happened last year. Like you see Kevin Durant going off for 30, you see Devin Booker going off for 30, and they're still losing by 20. So like that's my only fear with the Suns. But as far as like but as far as like the perimeter defense, what I wanted to I guess bring as a counterpoint to you is like, yeah, Cam Reddish isn't fully there, but from what you've seen of Jared Vanderbilt last year, he's a very viable like option. Of we seen what he did with Curry last year.
Defense. But the thing is, he got played off the floor as well. See, that's the thing. All of these players that were played there, even Rui Hashimura to a smaller extent, they were all played off the floor at various points in the playoffs. Jared Vanderbilt was great defensively in those first 2 rounds, but halfway through Golden State, you saw they started personally singling him out on screens. And one thing Jared Vanderbilt does not do well is go through screens. And they knew that, they found that, and they exploited that to where he got diminished time in the playoffs going forward. But if he's a one-on-one on an island, Jared Vanderbilt is truly great at it. But also the fact that he struggled with his 3-point shot, and he's got to be somewhat, at least if he's whoever the Lakers have as far as out there, I'm not asking for 5-star players. I'm asking for pieces that fit alongside LeBron, who in his 38th year season, they're going to be 39 later this month, is absolutely playing at an incredible level. Absolutely. And you've got to maximize that with players that accentuate him as best as possible. AD's received a lot of flack this season. He comes in, is he the guy that's getting 27, 15, and 5 blocks, or is he the guy that's just missing for halves and quarters? And I just, AD is still, I have hope in AD. I still have hope he can be that guy for us as far as a supporting guy for LeBron. But you surround that team with players that accentuate their skills the best, and you could really have something. The Lakers were really good in that Memphis series. They were really good in that Golden State series. I'm hoping they can find that je ne sais quoi once again, that they can go ahead and be able to ride that. But I still think they need a little bit of tweaking, little bit of things here and there to help them out, or improve play. If they get the improved play from D'Angelo Russell, Austin Reeves as playmakers, shooters, a little bit better defense consistently around the perimeter, and get that kind of support that they can as far as defensively, and rebound. It would be nice if they got some rebounds, because you say they're the worst offensive rebounding team and they're the worst at giving up offensive rebounds. That's a bad combination. So if they could figure out and solve that even a little, man, this team could be where you want it to be.
Absolutely. And that point that I like, what I was getting with Jared Vanderbilt and like how he got played off the floor. I mean, in theory, that's exactly why we brought in Taurean Prince, because he is also a 3-and-D player who can shoot. He hasn't been that at all so far. But in theory, he can do that. I'm pretty sure I think he lit up. I think he lit up the Lakers last year for like 35 points, and for just going off on 3. So as far as that's kind of that point that I was getting to. But I mean, I just think if you can just get to another playoff series with the Nuggets, like there's at least a fighter's chance. And when I was going to bring into is like the whole Jared Vanderbilt and Taurean Prince situation. Do you don't think that is enough of a perimeter defense for the Lakers to rock out with? You think that we're going to have to bring in some more pieces from the perimeter defense?
I absolutely think so. Prince is just not that good defensively. He fouls at a high rate, and he's put out there against some of the top names, but that, as you've seen, my friend, the eye test tells you don't even have to look at the numbers with that. It's not been a pretty sight. And I think that he has to hit 40% to stay out there on the floor, like he guaranteed before the season. And unfortunately, that's not been the case. With Jared Vanderbilt, again, it's all about matchups. If you're able to go ahead and hide him somewhere on offense where you don't have to ask him to do too much there, he can be a valuable tool on the defensive end. But yeah, I still think that when it comes right down to it, I got to see him and Cam Reddish on the floor, see how, if we can get by with that. If that's the case, more power to you. But yeah, I still think that we're still missing something. I still think that we're missing something out on the perimeter. You know, we've got flaws that we just, but they're not large enough flaws that you can't fix. And if you can fix them, then it's going to take the Lakers a long way. It's just right now in this current configuration, there's just things that we see on a game-to-game basis that I think needs something a little bit more. And I think that's why fans are clamoring for the Zach LaVines and the Alex Carusos and the Vucevic's and, you know, all these other players that they keep talking about, the Miles Turners, the Buddy Hields, et cetera, because they see in what the Lakers can be with LeBron and AD. The problem is they just not quite there yet. It is, you know, like I said, when we go back to your original question, 12-9, it is, you know, and a chance to, as we're talking here, a chance to get back into first place in the Pacific Division with the win tonight against Phoenix. That's obviously a lot better than we were this time last year. So it is a step in the right direction there. I'm just hoping they can take it even further than they did even last year.
Absolutely, man. Yeah, definitely hoping if we can take it further than last year, we're at least at the finals, so
Yeah.
that'll be good. But and then I guess like a follow up to that question of like if Cam Reddish and Jared Vanderbilt isn't enough for you, and we're looking for that package, like who are some like non-negotiable pieces that you're not gonna let go, like
There
besides
is
LeBron
none.
and AD? Wow,
Well, you
really?
know, there's not. No, Austin Reeves is no longer untouchable.
D'Angelo
We
Russell's not untouchable to you. He's the
No,
biggest playmaker on our team. He gives AD and sets LeBron and sets that team up.
no, he also can't play defense when you need to. You saw him in the playoffs. You saw him get picked on and roasted because remember, playoffs are about matchups, and you know,
He can
if
find
you,
those for AD.
I'm telling you, if it, you know, there should be no one that's untouchable as far as outside of LeBron, and that includes AD, because AD is not, you know, his consistency. You know, if you
Yes.
listen to our show, we're going to tell you that his consistency has been an issue, but you're never going to get a package for AD that's going to satisfy you. So let's just put that out of bed right now. And he is available to be traded as of the 6th of February, but there is no package right now this season that the Lakers will get that will satisfy them for AD. So let's put that out of the picture. Just everybody else should be on the table because D'Lo is going to be a free agent at the end of the season anyways. So that's something you also have to keep in mind. So even if you personally, it sounds like you're a big supporter of D'Angelo Russell, and he has played at times very well offensively, and seeing him play finally the defense at the level we had for one game on Saturday does bring a little bit more to my heart on that. But will he do that consistently for you, or do you have to flash back on the playoffs when he was repeatedly picked on by the opposing team you know, during the playoffs? That's what I have concerns with. And if that's the case, maybe you want to reevaluate where you're at. But also, like I said, he has a contract which allows him to be a free agent at the end of the season. So again, logistically, that might be something that people want, as other teams might want, as an asset as well. They want a guy that's going to get out of his contract, that gives him cap space to go ahead and get another player of their choosing later on. So that's something that you got to keep in mind there. But with Austin Reeves, I know, you know, he was untouchable at the beginning of the season, but people, you know, we saw flaws in his defense on the FIBA side, you know, in FIBA, where he was absolutely brilliant on the offensive end, but they were picking on him on the defensive end. And then we've seen this season, why was he put back on the bench? Because teams would relentlessly hunt him down on the defensive end. Now, as a guy coming off the bench, he's done extremely well, giving us playmaking, things of that nature. And, you know, you saw a little bit of that swagger come back in the last game as well, which was enjoyable to see, especially in that second quarter. But yeah, there should be no one outside of LeBron that's really untouchable. But again, I'm not saying AD is going to be traded at no way, shape, or form. You will never find a package this season that's going to fit for AD unless, you know, some other superstar center becomes available, which I don't see that happening. I mean, Joel Embiid's not becoming available
Yeah.
anytime soon. Neither is Nikola Jokic. So outside of that, I don't see AD getting traded. So anybody else below that, LeBron and AD, I think should be in consideration for the right moves, for the right trade. But again, it's all about what players are you going to get back that'll help your team win.
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, with the AD thing, yeah, like I said, we're not getting anything that it's like, wow, we won off that. Now, as far as Austin Reeves, I personally have never been on the boat of like he's untouchable. Like I think that like if
so you're not he's him with him.
No, I'm not one of those. He's definitely great, but but to me, he's not like one of those untouchables just because it's like he's probably like the best talent that to where we can like dangle a carrot in front of somebody's face and be like, here you go, come, come get it, and us not be like, wow, we're losing so much. Now for D'Angelo Russell, and the reason why I brought him up, and that was a great point that you brought up about like the contract of like he can either go for nothing or we can get him for something if he goes. That's a great point. But the reason why I like D'Lo and why I would prefer to not trade him is because he is such a great playmaker for us. Like he gets AD so many easy buckets every single game. And we know Anthony Davis, like for whatever reason, I don't know if it's an effort thing. I don't know if it's like he just doesn't like basketball that much. He's just good at it.
We just don't know what it is.
Right. But D'Angelo Russell gets him going with so many, like as a basketball player, I know that the number one way to get going is seeing that ball go through the bucket. And when you could get some easy buckets, when you could just run a pick and roll with D'Lo and AD, and D'Lo could put the ball only where AD could get it. And that is a skill set of D'Lo. And then also another thing that he does is like when he's out there, he allows LeBron to run the lanes. Like a lot of the times when LeBron is our point guard, it's great. I love IQ LeBron. I love point guard LeBron, but I also love when LeBron gets to be the roll man in the pick and roll. I love because then if we get, run a pick and roll, LeBron and D'Lo, and then you have AD cutting baseline. Now you have LeBron with he could have the ball again. I think to me, having D'Lo out there allows the Lakers to play in so many different ways, facets, forms with a LeBron point guard, with a D'Lo point guard, with the D'Lo just playing catch and shoot, with the D'Lo bringing the ball up court. D'Lo gets players involved. But then to your point of like the defense, I absolutely agree. Like that's one of my biggest knocks on D'Lo, and I love D'Lo a lot. Like this is actually a jersey from D'Lo from his rookie year, but I just don't think that unless we get Malcolm Brogdon, which hey man, if he want to come, I'll definitely take Malcolm Brogdon. But unless we get him, I don't think that there's a guard out there that's gonna, and unless you can tell me that, is gonna be able to play make and do everything that D'Lo does, and then be that defender that we're looking for, because we can bring in a great defender, but then that offense drops off. The AD's easy buckets drop off. Now LeBron has to initiate the offense every time down court, and LeBron can't run the lanes. So that's why I really like D'Lo, but you do bring up a great point of the contract. Either he goes for nothing or he goes for something.
And it's funny because, which D'Lo you're going to get. We saw in the playoffs, there's bursts that he can give you that can really push your team forward. Like in Memphis, he had a great Memphis series. He didn't have a great Memphis series. He had great bursts. Like coming out of it, there was one game he was coming out of the second half and he took over for a 5-minute stretch where it was just him. And he has those bursts, which he becomes unstoppable. And it's just so good to see. And you're right. As a playmaker, he's evolved, especially with AD. It's gotten a lot better. There's been several games this year where he's gotten like 7, 8, 9 assists, 0 turnovers. So it's been very good to see that. But again, his defense, we worry about his defense manning up. He just does not have the lateral quickness. It's not his fault. It's just, what God gave you as far as your abilities, as far as that's concerned. You can only do so much. Same thing with Austin Reeves. Why was he not drafted? A lot of it was because of the fact that his speed and lateral quickness was just not up to par. People forget that. People don't remember that. The man was undrafted for a reason, and these reasons start to show up over the course of time. If his reasons were that he just couldn't shoot, and now he can shoot, that's a different story. But it's when you have lateral quickness, speed issues, those are hard things to overcome. You have to find the right spacing on the floor. You have to find the right distance on the floor. You have the right coaching, things of that nature that could help or experience that bridges those gaps a little bit. But even then, with some of the most athletic people on the planet that you're playing against, it's really hard to go ahead and do that. D'Angelo, again, his contract is going to be around trade talk time really valuable because it's an expiring, or he has the choice to expire it if he so choose to. And that's going to be hard for the Lakers not to utilize that or talk about that in a trade, because the fact he's been playing at a decent level. He's not hurt the team like he hurt Minnesota, because he was shooting 40% last year with Minnesota, but the team was much better with him off the floor than on. So you got to ask yourself, why was that the case? And so when the Lakers got him, and he's doing essentially the same things that he did in Minnesota, but yet the team was still doing well, that's a promising sign. And same thing here. He's shooting a little bit better now after, starting the season very rough. He's getting better now. Like you said, he's getting with AD, because AD and LeBron, for some reason, they just will not do the most obvious thing in pick and roll. They will, if AD and LeBron did 20 pick and rolls a game, my God, the success ratio on that would be so much easier. Okay, ball movement on this team is something we need more of. Man movement on this team, because Ham wants this 5-out system. Ham going to this 5-out system is a problem, and I think a lot of our audience points the finger at Darvin Ham, saying if we don't get this far, or if we don't get to where we want to go, a lot of it's based on him. I just see things with Darvin Ham, unfortunately, that I think he needs to develop more as a coach. And I think this 5-out system that he's created, that not he's created, but he's instituted on this team, is a big problem, because having AD or Jackson Hayes shoot corner threes is not a good system to have. And I've seen that in recent games. It's not good. It's not what the Lakers do. It's not best to fit your team. You need to find an offense, a ball or man movement offense that accentuates what your team can do. And this team is best when it's in transition and when it's getting to the free throw line, just like it did last year. When it really kicked into high gear for the Lakers, transition, transition, transition. Good solid defense, good enough rebounding, transition, and getting to the free throw line. That's what got us to where we went to in the playoffs. And I'm hoping they can revert to that. You start seeing some signs. So I'm hoping we can go ahead and get to that point once again.
Absolutely. I'm definitely hoping that we can get there. If we can do that, man, then I think that we can at least when you have a player like LeBron and AD, if you can at least get there, they can take you home, man. They can take you home. So I'm right there with you, Gerald. And then last couple of questions here before we wrap up.
Of course.
Is if I came up to you and said, Gerald, who's been your early season MVP? Who you gonna go with?
Excellent question. I think if you steer away from Jokic, that's going to be hard to do. Jokic has played well. Embiid and Maxey have played well for Philadelphia. Boston with Jason Tatum has played really well. I would say Jokic, but you know what? The guy that you look out for, and I know Joe and I have gone back and forth, this Joe Soro and I on the show, and that is Devin Booker. I mean, the team in Phoenix was floundering with just Kevin Durant out there. He comes back from injury. They go on a run. They take over first place in the Pacific Division. I don't think that's by accident. I think that's, a guy that is been playing at a really high level. He's playing out of position, and he's doing really well at it in Devin Booker playing point guard. So he would be up there. Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, all he's done is he's led his young team to the second best record in the Western Conference. So let's not leave out SGA as well. And of course, you got the guys at the top. The biggest surprise, not the biggest surprise, I'd say Orlando's the biggest surprise, but one of the biggest surprises is Minnesota. So where do you start? And you start with Anthony Edwards there as an MVP candidate. But right now, I probably would lean towards Jokic as the safe pick right now, just because the guy's still getting video game numbers. These are numbers that I used to get as a player when I was playing at 2K or the old basketball games in the 90s and 2000s, when you just have, you lifted up all the attributes to like 99, and you would get that in sensational game. And he seems to get those video game numbers now like every single game. So it's hard to steer away from Jokic, and if that's the case, there's a bevy of great players that right behind him. If that's the case,
I like that. I like that. All right. And then as far as what's your predictions for the Lakers where as far as like what we're finishing?
well, I predicted them for first place because I thought that I bought into the offseason moves. I bought into the fact that these guys were going to shoot at a relatively. I didn't ask for a top level 3-point shooting team. I just asked for an average. If the Lakers can shoot as an average NBA team from the outside, that does so much for this team. If they could go ahead and keep up the transition and free throw line, which is what I was assuming that they would do, John. I think they'll right the ship a little bit more. I think that they'll get, I still predicted for them a third place finish in the Western Conference and 50 wins, but then being able to find whatever it is to take and get all the way to the finals and win. I'm still going to say the third place in the Western Conference, just because at some point in time, you got to rest LeBron and AD. You know, they've been playing at a very high level or they've only missed one game apiece as of this recording. So I'd probably say third place and 50 wins is still a very good possibility. They just got to go on a run. They got to play together as a unit a little bit more. We will see what this team, if they stay healthy, and that's a big if, we will see what this team looks like in a couple of weeks. And by the end of the year, if they do stay healthy, we will know exactly what kind of team we have.
Absolutely, man. And I can't wait to get to at least see this Lakers squad at full health. But last question before I get you out of here, Gerald, and that is, as a Lakers fan, if can you give me one word or one phrase to describe about how you've been feeling about this year? How do you feel about this year? Is it excitement? Is it sadness? Like a word or a phrase to describe you and your feelings about this Lakers squad.
Gut churning. Because my gut has churned many a times, whether it's because the way they played at times, you know, these back-to-backs where they just blow teams out and you're like on a high, and then the next game they just throw a poo-poo game at you out there. It's really just it just really gets to you. It really gets to you because you don't know which team you really have, and it's just led to this inconsistency that this team really has been over the course of the the first 20 some odd games. They've been very inconsistent, so it leads to a lot of up and down. It leads to a lot of gut churning for me, and that's as the host who has to, when you deal with a huge chat room that has varying opinions and panelists that have varying opinions, it doesn't make anything easier when the team is so inconsistent. But I'm hopeful that can be alleviated and this team can play a lot better going forward.
Absolutely, man. Absolutely. Well, I'm right there with you. And for the family, man, I hope you guys enjoyed this episode, man. My guy Gerald from the Lakers Fast Break podcast came on and blessed us with his time, blessed us with his wealth of Lakers knowledge, and we appreciate you for that, Gerald. Is there any last words you want to say before we get out of here?
If you get a chance and you've not checked us out yet, we are one of the most opinionated, with Joe Soro, one of the most controversial takes out there. We accept all sides of the equation, whatever your opinion on the Lakers are or the NBA. We'd love to have you at least give us a shot. Hopefully you would get a chance to subscribe, like to us, follow us any which way you can. We're all over the place on YouTube, Facebook, Twitch, Twitter, Trovo, Kick, what have you. We're all over the place. It's the Lakers Fast Break. We hope you give us a shot, and hopefully you'll like what we do and stick around. We do provide a lot of what we call infotainment, information, entertainment, and a lot of people seem to like and enjoy that because they spend a lot of time laughing at us and laughing with us.
I love that, man. I love that. And for the family, definitely go check out everything from the Lakers Fast Break Pod. I'll link everything in the description down below, all their social medias, YouTube page. Go check them out. Go show them some love. Drop a subscribe. And for now, we're out of here, y'all. And let's hope to see some more Laker magic, man. Peace.